A trained agent should know exactly what to look for that are what I call red flags on a property. The best agents are the best problem solvers. And our job is just to bring those problems to light and provide the solution. If you prep the home correctly, you price the home correctly, you get a lot of attention for the property itself.
Hey guys, if you're in the market to buy or sell real estate, we all know that negotiations are part of the process. There's a lot of things that are negotiated. And today we're gonna peel back the curtain on that. We're gonna talk a little bit about what actually happens in the negotiations when you're buying or selling a home and the things that you should be aware of when working with an agent. I'm here today with my partner, Robert Ortiz, one of our founding agents here that's been at, with us at PRG for quite some time now.
Yeah,
veteran agent, has closed a lot of transactions. We've worked closely together. And so welcome, Rob. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Right on. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so let's talk about this, right? Like, we all know negotiations is part of the deal, right? And what I want to, for the people watching out there, right? Someone that's either thinking of buying or selling, what actually gets negotiated, right? Because we hear that term kind of thrown so loosely.
Right.
Like, hey, I can negotiate, but what do they mean, right? Like, I think a lot of people don't really know what that means. So maybe let's kind of break it down, maybe some examples of different things that get negotiated.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on which side of the coin you're at, right? I mean, if you're on the buy side, you're more focused on figuring out ways to drive that price as low as possible, right? You're trying to negotiate the best terms on your behalf, and even as the topic says, what type of EMDs, what type of deposits you're going to end up submitting in. So if you're on the sell side, right, it's a different types of negotiations. At that point, we're trying to figure out ways to push these numbers up.
Yeah.
Right. So we use different types of, I don't want to say tactics, but maybe methods in order to push these numbers up and towards the direction that sellers are going to be happy at that point. So yeah, we have two things to talk about. So
terms and price, right?
Term and price.
Terms and price. So let's break it down for terms, right? Terms could mean a whole host of things, right? Like in an actual purchase contract, there are so many different terms, but the main ones are probably going to be like the timeline, right? Like, so how long it's going to take for you to close escrow.
Right.
How much deposit you're putting down.
That's right.
Right? Maybe is there any special clauses? Are you asking for credits from the seller?
That's right.
Things like that, right?
You're doing appraisal contingencies. You're doing inspection contingencies. You have finance contingencies.
Yeah, so your contingency periods, right?
Periods, correct.
Which is like how long you have to like get these things taken care of.
That's right.
Before your money's like on the line, your deposit's on the line.
Right. So all those factors play a role in the contract that you're going to be submitting with the seller at that point. Now, the way that it's described is the less amount of what do we call it? Like
contingencies or things you're asking for, right?
The less things that you're asking for from the seller, the stronger you're supposed to look. That's the way it's being told, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is ways to kind of play the game, right? There's certain contingencies that we want to leave on the table because we don't want to jeopardize our clients on the buy side and put them in a position where it may not be as favorable for them in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's give an example of that, right? Like what are maybe some of the tactics you're using right now with your buyers to try to maybe protect them in the contract? Right?
Well, there's certain things that we can automatically clean up right off the bat, right? I mean, here in Silicon Valley, it's pretty standard to have, we'll talk about the inspection contingencies.
Yeah.
Right. Right now, that the way it's going right now is that the sellers are providing seller reports and disclosures to the buyer so that the buyer can have a pretty good idea of what they're jumping into as far as the condition of the property and just some facts about the home itself.
Yeah.
Right?
So like up front, you go look at a home and then the agent representing the buyer is able to download the disclosures, the reports, right?
Now, yeah.
It's pretty common that almost all homes, at least in our area, right? At least 90% of them have that information available.
At least here, yeah. Now, where a good agent comes, we'll break that a little bit more down, is if you've never seen disclosure reports, it's a huge packet, guys. It's a lot. And a trained agent should know exactly what to look for that are what I call red flags on a property that the buyer should be at least aware of. How we play the game, if there's red flags, that's a different conversation. But a great agent should be able to take a look at those and make a decision. And the decisions are two factors. It either we know what's happening with the home and we're okay with the issues that the home has, or if there's any sort of issues, we put a game plan together in order for us to at least recoup some of those costs through the negotiation styles,
or even do further investigation,
or further investigations, right?
And so that's where you would maybe bring in that inspection contingency.
Right.
So let's say you look at the reports and there's some stuff going on, but you're like, hey, I can handle this, right? I'm okay with the condition, even though it needs, you know, some updates or there's some things going on. Then you can decide, like, do I want to waive my inspection contingency at that point?
Yeah, and it's simple. Some of the stuff that we might be having, like some conversations about, where like a loose, I don't know, a loose sink knob or something like that, right? Those would be things that would show up on the reports, but they're minor enough where we may be able to fix them ourselves without asking the sellers to get involved.
Yeah.
Right now, can we ask the sellers? This is the part now where negotiations. Buyers do ask us for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are going to be the conversation that we're going to have to figure out if that's something that we want to ask the sellers to fix, because that could be a way where our offers look a little bit less strong. Now, we're talking about a knob at the moment right now, but you could throw us the other factors, other red flags that might pop up.
Let's say it's a bigger item. Let's say it's like the electrical or the plumbing, or there's something that's a bigger ticket item.
Right.
Then as a buyer, you got to decide, like, hey, do I just anticipate it's going to cost $10,000 or whatever that figure is, or do I need time to bring my contractor, my plumber, or do some further investigation at that point?
Right. Your time to do your own due diligence on the property there.
And that's where you would, if you do need time, then you're going to want to ask for some sort of contingency period on the inspection part, right?
That's right. Now, again, guys, this goes back to a good agency, right? A good agent should be able to read those reports and provide that information, right? They should be able to give some sort of feedback and say, hey, listen, there's a vertical crack here that's more than a finger width. You know, maybe we should bring another inspector to come out here and take a look at it.
Yeah.
So the importance of having an agent and having a trained agent, you know, pays dividends.
Yeah, absolutely.
In making that decision.
I've had clients where some of my clients were, they were like aggressive. They just really wanted the home. And there was all kinds of things on the report. And I was like, wait, hold on, right? Like, there's some stuff going on here that we're probably going to want to get looked at, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, these few items I'm not worried about. Those are minor things, cosmetic.
Right.
But these over here, I know you guys really love the home, but we might need to take a step back, and we might want to get some clarity on these.
That's right.
Because you don't want that coming back to bite you. Let's say you go in with no inspection contingency, right? And now you move forward with the home, and then you find out later that it's a lot more expensive than you thought, right?
That's right. Our jobs are really simple, guys, to an extent when it comes to real estate, right? Our job here is not to convince anybody to buy a house. Our job is to lay out all the facts, and it's up to you guys to make the decision. Our job is to let you know where we might see potential
like red flags,
like some red flags, like something that's coming down the pipe that maybe we should really
be
have
able
a
to see around the corner for them too, right?
There you go. That's a better way. And then it's our job to bring them out to light, and then it's our job to have a conversation and come up with the solution to the problem.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point, right? Is that whoever you decide to work with, you want to go with an agent who has the resources, the know-how, and they're able to read those things and guide you, right? To like, hey, this is what you should do. This is what you should look for. Right. And that's where I think the experience comes into play.
Big time.
Right? Because, you know, even some of our newer agents that are on our team, and I coach them and we coach them, right? They haven't been down this road as many times.
That's right.
So what they do is they bring it to us, right? They say, hey, I have this client. We're writing an offer. I looked at the reports. Can you look at the reports too?
Right.
And they'll bring it to management, you know, and then we'll go ahead and say, hey, no, you should get this checked out. Or, hey, you know what? This is not a big deal. Let's talk with the client. Let's walk them through it.
Yeah. You got to be a great problem solver, right? I mean, if you're going to sit on this side of the table where you're a real estate agent and you know that professionalism, I think the best agents are the best problem solvers.
Yeah.
And our job is just to bring those problems to light and provide the solutions and put it in a way where we relay the information correctly so that you're able to make the right decision for you and your family.
Yeah. Now, where it gets tricky is when it's a really competitive market, like where we are, and there's multiple offers on a property. And what's happening is very common that people are going in with no contingencies.
That's right.
Right?
Especially around here.
If it's a hot property, it's in great condition, or what seems like great condition, it's in a great area, or it's priced attractively. You see a lot of buyers just saying, hey, I'll take it as is, even with everything going on with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even with the crack in the foundation or even with this plumbing that needs to get replaced.
Yeah.
I think that's the tricky part, right? Where if you're a first-time home buyer, like you don't know what you don't know and you're having to go up and like compete in this market where some people are just going in and saying, hey, we'll risk it.
Right.
Or we have the extra money in case something goes wrong.
Right.
Right? Have you ran into that?
Yeah. Listen, there's ways, first off, to minimize risk.
Yeah.
Right? By providing our own inspections. Here, I'll give you an example. Enrique and I, we've been in business now for 20 years. We have an amazing vendor list, right? So the people that we lean on for information that are experts in their fields, we might bring them in and get their opinion as far as the matter, right? And come up with a solution that's going to end up playing it. But what I've noticed, especially here, it's very, very competitive here in Silicon Valley. What I noticed is people outweigh the risk. So let's just say this, for example. Let's just say there's a problem that happens to be $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money, guys. I'm not saying $10,000 is not a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at things, right?
Yeah, on a $2 million home or something, right?
Yeah, on a $2 million home, $2.5 million home, you start to look at $10,000 to be a small cost to get fixed, or we can pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, right? So over the list price. So when you start to look at some factors like that, those are the parts now where we have to really kind of outweigh certain things.
Yeah,
right?
weigh them out, right?
Weigh it out. Like what's going to be a little bit better, right? Like, hey, listen, I understand. Listen, it's a fact that this is what we have. This is what we've got to deal with. These are the facts when it comes to the cost, right? What's the alternative? The alternative is that if we don't fight for this house as much as we can, there could be an opportunity where we now become outpriced out of this neighborhood.
Yeah, that's true, right?
Which is way more than 10 grand around here.
Especially when the prices are continuing to climb up, right? Where that $2 million home, that's where it's going for $2 million today, but 3 months from now, maybe it's going for 2.1, right? It already went up 100,000.
That's right.
So do you bite the bullet on that 10,000?
That's right.
Plumbing cost.
Right.
To not end up getting priced out and having to compete at 2.1 later down the line, right?
That's right.
And so those are, the conversations that we have with our clients, and it's a tough position to be in, right? Like, but you have to look at all the angles, right?
That's right. I mean, you would be amazed what I see when clients kind of dismiss certain things because they want the house so much, or they see the benefits of them buying now as opposed to later. Yeah. Right. I'll be honest. I think that's the reason why a lot of people are in these bidding wars when it comes to this area, right?
Yeah.
They know they're overpaying for the house now.
Yeah.
But because we're in Silicon Valley, 6 months from now, they made that money back.
They made it back. Yeah.
Right. So that's the game that you're probably gonna have to play where you justify, and that's on price, guys. But I'm talking about even when it comes to repairs, even when it comes to negotiating. Those are the things that you're looking for as a home buyer at the moment.
Yeah.
And those are the types of conversations that you're going to be having with your agent, and then at the end, you're going to come up with a solution that's going to make sense.
Yeah, and see if it makes sense, right? And you got to factor all things. You got to factor, your budget, right? What can you handle, monthly, your down payment. I think the other thing too is you got to factor how long you're going to be in the home, right? Are you going to recoup your costs on your investment?
That's right.
If you overpay now, but you keep the house for 20 years, well, you're going to make that money back, right? But if you're going to get a job relocation in 2 years, and now you may have to sell this house, then we are probably going to tell you, hey, it doesn't make sense for you to buy right now.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so I think what we're realizing as we're discussing this is negotiations is one part of it, but it's being able to kind of see all the angles and really pick everything apart that allows us to negotiate what's best for the client.
That's right. That's exactly
it's not just what's the price, right? Price is only one part of it. It's what's the whole package you're getting with this property.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I mean, again, that's where the great agents, in my experience, come, right? Is that they have all these scenario types that they can play out, right? Yeah. They've seen. I've seen a lot of roads in this real estate game, where I kind of know, I can anticipate what's around the corner. I can anticipate what's coming down the road, right? So I voice them out in front. We just have a simple conversation and we kind of figure it out from there. And listen, guys, if it doesn't work out, if that's not the home, if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't fit the scenario, if it doesn't make sense to you, then that's not the right house.
Yeah, and we keep shopping.
We keep shopping around.
Yeah, I had to tell a client recently that I was working with on the buy side. The house I knew what their appetite was for repairs because they were a first-time home buyer. They had a certain budget. They were open to some repairs,
right?
But I knew there was a certain threshold where if it went past this, they were probably not going to want to do it, right? So they sent me a home. Hey, we saw this home online. Can we go take a look at it? So I said, okay, let me do some investigation first. Let me see what's going on. Let me see how much activity there is, and then let me see what the house needs.
Right.
Turns out that the house needed a lot of repairs, foundation work, all these different things. And I had to tell my client, like, hey, look, I don't think we should look at this home. Right? Because I already know, based off this neighborhood, someone's probably going to overbid, even with all these things going on. And these things can probably equal 50 to 100K worth of repairs that you're going to have to do.
Right.
So let's not even, this might just not be the home for us, right?
Those are the hard conversations that you have to have sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're dream killers. We have to be dream killers, right?
Yeah.
We have to be upfront. We have to be honest. And at the very least, guys, we're a tool and a resource that we have to voice our opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, if they decide to take it, that's a totally different story, right? The reason why we're there is to consult each other, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just another opinion that we're throwing out. But I mean, listen, that's a great agent, right?
Yeah.
I think an agent that's open, that kind of puts their personal needs to the side, and puts the needs of the clients first, in my opinion, is the best type of agent that you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So no, that happens. It happens a lot.
And then, that same client, right, when I found another home for them, I knew the other agent, I had talked to the other agent,
Right.
I did my homework, I knew what sort of activity they had, and that one was a really good opportunity for them. And I said, hey, it needs a little bit of work, but it's not that much work, and I know the agent, and I know, where we can come in at. We ended up going for that home, and that's the home we ended up buying.
Okay.
Right?
That's the way it works.
And now they're super happy with that home. It appraised for more than what we got it for.
Yeah.
And it has all this potential. And they're going to make some minor adjustments to it and renovations. Right. But in the long term, it's going to be a great asset for them. Right?
Listen, guys, if there's one thing that I've learned, there's a perfect house for everyone, right? And it is a process. It is a roller coaster ride. But if you hang in there, chances are, and I say this, guys, like 98, 99% chance that you're going to find the house.
Yeah.
Right? But it is a process. You have to understand how the process works, and just go through the bells and the motions, and eventually you get to the end.
You get to the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? So if it wasn't meant to be, then move on to the next one. Keep going. Eventually, you'll end up finding one.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in this market's tough.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see how people can get frustrated around this area. It's a tough market.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's flip for the next part of this segment. Is we talked about negotiating terms and stuff like that. What are some of the strategies you're seeing from a seller's perspective when we're working with sellers? What are some of the strategies we're seeing on negotiations and how to generate the most activity, best price, and stuff like that?
So there's two important things when it comes to a seller, guys. And usually why a house sells for the most amount of money comes down usually to two things. It comes down to price, and it comes down to marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about marketing. Let's talk about that, because I think we're pretty good at marketing.
Yeah. On the marketing stuff, I think marketing is like it could be a general term, right? But when I think marketing, I think home preparation. How was the home prepped for sale, right? Because that's part of how we are marketing the product out there, right? So what does the home look like? What does it look like online? What do the photos look like when you walk into the property? What does it look like? Is it staged? Is it cleaned up? Is it renovated? All those different things. That's definitely something that we always address on every single listing, and make sure we present the product as best as possible.
Yep, that's the first thing.
But then the other thing, I think what a lot of people don't see is the dialogue that happens between the agents. Right?
Like on the back end?
On the back end.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we're representing a seller, and an agent calls to see, hey, how many offers, right? That's a typical question we get, right? When we're representing a seller. What's the first thing they say? Hey, is it still available? How many offers do you got?
Just how many disclosure reports?
How many disclosures?
Yeah.
What price do you think it's going to go for?
Yes, we see those all the time.
And that's where I think the negotiations start right there.
Of course.
Before the offers even come in, right?
Yeah. Once you have the house set up, ready to go, the house is on the market, the open house has already happened. The next thing is you start to have the incoming flood of calls coming in.
Yeah.
And then the questions begin. And as an agent, guys, on the sell side, I am having conversations with the people that are most interested in the property. And you could tell people that are interested as far as the questions that they're asking in direction that the agent is kind of taking the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So my ears start to perk up at that point, and that's when game time happens when it comes to negotiations. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's say, like, how do you typically handle it, right? Like, if an agent asks you, hey, how many offers do you got? Or, hey, what do you think the price is going to be? Is it like a standard response? Is it depend on the property? Are you like just telling them, hey, this is what it is? Or are you, kind of pointing it in a certain direction, right?
Well, I think we're fortunate enough to live in Silicon Valley right now. Listen, this might be around. I just know my area really, really well. That homes get a lot of attention around here, right? If you prep the home correctly, you price the home correctly, you get a lot of attention for the property itself, right? So it's not like I'm lying, guys. It is. We are getting a lot of attention on the property. We do expect to get a lot of offers coming in. So start pushing up your highest and best offer.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things that I end up doing is when I start to figure out people that are interested, I circle back around and start kind of interviewing the agent themselves in regards to their buyer. And listen, guys, I want to make sure that whoever I'm having these negotiation conversations with is that I vet them. Is that these are actual people, actual buyers that are serious, and there's something that can be done there.
Yeah.
So some of the first questions that I would be asking is to the agent is, well, tell me about your buyers. Like, what is that you're looking for? I try to figure out what their maximum numbers are, because my job as a seller is to push these numbers up as high as I can.
Yeah.
Right. So I try to get as much insight as I can, and I have my own games, my own tricks that I play in order to get that information from the agents.
Yeah.
And then that helps me out, because you have to remember my fiduciary responsibility is to my client, which is the seller.
Yeah.
So once I gather all that information, I relay that in a way to my clients where they can make a decision on which direction to go. But my first way was to beat down the agent.
Yeah, and we're starting to influence, right? Like, influence as much as possible, right?
Right.
If there is a lot of activity, like, we want to
make it known.
We want to make it known. Like, hey, look, there's a lot of activity. We had 100 people come through the open house, or we had 25 disclosure downloads.
That's right.
We're probably going to have multiple offers, right? So how, does your client really like this home, right? How much, do you know how much they're willing to pay? And so we're painting the picture for the agent.
That's right.
So that when they go to meet with their client, they're going to try to push their client to bring the best offer to the table.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And I think that's what I notice between a really good negotiator or someone who understands the game that's played, is like a lot of agents don't do this. There's some that do. There's some really good agents out there that we know. But there's also, we've been on the other side where the listing agent isn't telling you anything, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, they're blank. They don't tell you anything. They're not trying to influence and push that thing up. They're just saying, yeah, just send your offer and we'll let you know.
It's frustrating, guys. Listen, I don't know who this is going to resonate, if it's going to be the agents or the client. I don't know. But listen, if you're interviewing agents, it does get frustrating, right? This is something that you want to understand, is you want an agent that's picking up the phone. You have no idea how many of our agents are calling listing agents and they don't even pick up their phone. There's no communication that's happening.
Yeah.
There's none of that. Right? And if you're selling your home, if you're the consumer that has decided to put your home on the market and interview for an agent, you want to make sure that that agent is working 100% for you. And part of that job is to pick up the phone, answer these calls, answer these questions, right? And work for you.
Yeah,
right?
and advocate for your property.
Yeah.
And try to push it up.
That's the
right?
reason
Try
why
to
you have
get
an agent
people
there.
to compete with each other, right?
You have an agent there to push these numbers up as high as possible. And there is ways to do this.
Yeah.
It's just you have to make sure that agent's on board, because it does happen, guys. As sad as that sounds, there is these agents out there that won't pick up phones, that will do the bare minimum, and it does happen. And unfortunately, I have to work with them, but this is what we got to deal with.
Yeah, and we know there's money being left on the table. A quick story before we wrap up is I submitted an offer on a property before for one of my clients. I was representing the buyer, and this agent either wasn't from the area or she just wasn't too thrilled about selling this property. I think that's what it seemed like. Barely answered her phone. When she finally answered her phone, she was real short. She didn't really want to talk. She was like, just send your offer in. And I said, well, is there an offer due date, right? Because it's common that we'll see an offer due date. She goes, well, there's not a hard deadline, but we'll start looking at offers on this day. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try to, because it was a short window. Like she wanted them like that same day. I'll say, okay, I'll try to get that offer by that time. If not, do I have a little bit of time? She goes, yeah, just send your offer. I sent my offer in probably like an hour after she had said, and I'm thinking she's just kind of casually looking at him. And she tells me, oh, we already accepted an offer. And I'm like, well, I just spoke to you a little while ago and I said I was sending an offer in. Did you bother to call me or tell me or whatever? Yep. And she goes, well, the seller just wanted to hurry up. Yeah. And I'm like, no, the seller wanted to hurry up or you wanted to hurry up?
Exactly.
Come to find out, the offer that I sent in, I looked at what it sold for. Yeah. Our offer was $60,000 higher than what it sold for. And so that agent left $60,000 on the table. My client was willing to pay $60,000 more than the offer she accepted, simply because that agent didn't go through the steps of answering the call, pushing, playing the game, trying to bring all the offers in. She just wanted to go with the first and whatever came in.
And you know what sucks about it? Is that the seller, the person, the actual person, would never have known any of this stuff. The client, the homeowner,
whoever the homeowner
was, has no idea how things get played in the background.
Yeah.
And this is just the service that gets done, guys. And we get to see this all the time. And it's like, this makes no sense. You have to remember, if you're on the buy side, guys, and you have a client that's willing to pay these types of homes, it's discouraging to us as well, because we know that we could have had a winning offer.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're pushing these numbers. It's like the client, our client wanted to pay those money.
Yeah.
But without having that opportunity, it's really frustrating.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking like, well, my client was upset, right? Because they feel like they didn't even get a foot in the race, right? Their offer didn't even really get looked at, even though I sent it in.
Right.
But then I'm thinking like, what if the seller knew
exactly
what happened?
I always wonder that. I always wonder
what if the seller knew? Like they could have had $60,000 more, and the price that we were offering was within the range of the comps and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was, my clients like really liked the property and they wanted to put their best foot forward. But because the agent didn't play the game and didn't go through that, money lost, my client doesn't get the property.
Happens all the time, guys. It happens all the time. Even on negotiations when there's buyer counters being sent back and forth, or there's counters being sent back and forth, right? Sometimes there's even limitations as far as like how much the agent wants to pay the game, right?
Yeah. Sometimes they don't want to do the paperwork.
They don't want to do the paperwork.
They don't want to go back and forth with the counters.
Yeah.
You got to go online. You got to create the documents and send them out for DocuSign or whatever. But they don't even want to do that.
They don't even want to do that. They look at it more like, well, hey, listen, $60,000 is a lot. And every time I hear like things like that, it's like, well, why don't we ask your seller? Why don't we ask your client if $60,000 is a lot?
Yeah.
Right? I wonder what they would say.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just sad, guys. I mean, I would really perk up when someone and ask those types of questions, guys. If you're in the process of making this move.
So guys, I think we covered a lot today. I think hopefully we gave you some ideas, some perspective about what goes on, right, behind the scenes.
Right.
Being inside the brains of two agents who do this a lot and work with both buyers and sellers. These are the different things you got to look out for. So as a consumer, you got to look for these things, right? And being educated on how it works is probably the most important step, which is why we make these videos. But I hope you guys can take some of what you learned today and use it as you move forward and make your decisions. And if you guys need any help with buying, selling, have questions about the market, feel free to reply to us. Reply wherever you see this video, send an email, DM, whatever it is, and we'll be sure to take care of you and get you on your way. Thanks for coming today and checking us out.
Appreciate it, guys.